Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori if you're new here, and today I am going to be discussing some items that I have been stockpiling just in case of emergency. I've been compiling this list for a while, and it has to do with shortages and inflation rates that may affect us in 2023. So currently I am focusing on this year, but of course I always have my long-term food storage in the back of my mind as well. So we're going to talk about both of those today. If you're new here, hi, hello, my name is Tori. We make videos 3 to 4 times a week all about life here in Northern Colorado. I like to keep you prepared on a budget. I am a wife and stay-at-home mom, almost to 3. We have about a week or 2 left here, and this is a new season for me, being a stay-at-home mom, and I will say I have been a pretty prepared person, but nothing prepares you for this kind of lifestyle, especially in 2023. So we try and keep it lighthearted here. We try and be sensible with our preps and where we're spending our dollar. So if you like that kind of thing, I'd love it if you hit the subscribe button. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and let's get into my list. So item number 1 on my list is going to be bread, and that is caused by a flour shortage. If you look it up, there are certain parts of the globe that supply our flour, and they are going through a pretty rough time right now, so we might not be able to get some of the things that we need to make bread. So in these types of videos, I do like to tell you what the shortage is or what the inflation is, and then tell you a way around that. So I'm hoping this is helpful for you. First things first, you can go the real easy route. You could go buy bread on clearance. My Kroger always has a great clearance selection. You could vacuum seal it and then put it in your freezer. Is that going to last you long term? Probably not. It depends if you live in a place where there's a lot of power outages. In my last video, there was a tornado. We lost power in and out for about 2 days, and that's pretty typical of where I live here in Colorado. But you have to talk about man-made power loss as well. So that's something that you have to keep in mind when you are thinking of storing things in your freezer. If you don't have a way to generate that electricity to the freezer, I think it would be smart to just start looking at grid down scenarios. I haven't really done one on the channel, but we do talk about it a lot. I say it not to be threatening or daunting, but it's possible that this could be coming our way. I again live in Colorado, and some of the politics we don't really agree with here, but it is a beautiful state, and I could totally see that happening here, and I could totally see a lot of us being unprepared, myself included. I'm not perfect here, but I really think we need to start thinking about grid down scenarios. So that leads me to another way, just making bread. And I will leave my recipe here on the screen. It's a basic recipe for me. A lot of people keep sourdough starters in their kitchen. I killed mine a while back and haven't really ventured back into it, but there's plenty of resources out there. I love Farmhouse on Boone. She has a great channel. Lisa, big shout out to you for just helping people with their sourdough recipes. She's amazing. So I'm gonna point you in her direction. I really don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to sourdough bread. So again, there are different ways to actually store bread. There are ways to get around a shortage, and most of us don't really need bread. Bread is just delicious, in my opinion. Some of us are allergic to bread. So if you're gluten-free, stock up on some items that you may need to make that gluten-free bread. There are many ways around this shortage. Is bread essential for us to live? No, probably not. But in my opinion, it's delicious. And that flour shortage is not just going to affect bread. So you have to keep that in mind. Things that have that ingredient may be affected as well, or it could be at such an inflated cost that we just can't purchase it any longer in our budget. Number 2 on the list is going to be rice, and I feel like this has come up quite a bit on the channel to stockpile rice, but I haven't seen it on a food shortage list until recently this month, and this is going to affect us in the later end of 2023. I think we will be just fine personally, just because we always keep rice in Mylar and 5-gallon buckets. We keep it in our regular pantry. We keep it in our 2-year pantry because we go through a lot of rice, to be honest with you. I don't really have a way around this shortage, but I do have a way around the inflated costs, and that is to try and pick up a few extra bags a week just because it is so low in cost right now. You can get a 2-pound bag at Walmart for $1.48 right now, or if you would like, you could purchase it in bulk and then start separating it into some Mylar and 5-gallon buckets. That's one of those items that lasts indefinitely. I would go for just straight up white rice, not brown rice. There's oil in that will go rancid. I wouldn't go fancy with any special tea kinds of rice, although I think jasmine rice or sushi rice or I don't know, different kinds of rice would be just fine. But just know that that shortage is coming up, and it is because of a low crop yield, just because of some weather, among other varying reasons we like to say on the channel. I don't like to get too political on the channel just because it causes arguments in the comments. But if you do have any info on that, or maybe a way around the shortage besides stockpiling right now, then let us know in the comments down below. We're always interested in everyone's opinion as long as it's positive. Number 3 on the list is going to be aluminum. So I'm not stocking up on just straight aluminum, but I'm stocking up on canned items. I don't have any pets currently that eat canned pet food, but if you do, that would be a good one to stock up on. And then that's obviously going to affect, you know, your soft drinks and your beer. So that's another one that you have to keep in mind. I've worked in the brewing industry before, and I wouldn't suggest storing beer, even if you keep it in your prepper pantry. I think there are other ways around it if you need your alcohol in the event of a shortage. I totally understand that. Maybe switch to wine or liquor, but it will affect the cost of the aluminum, so your beer prices might go up just because big breweries themselves might not be able to keep up with the cost, not to mention small breweries, craft breweries. So that is something that you have to keep in mind. I've seen alternative ways to store beer, but it just doesn't have a long shelf life. So aluminum is a big one. We have a lot of canned items just because they are shelf stable and they are easy to buy. Typically they are very cheap. If the aluminum shortage becomes a big issue, which I've heard it may be time to start processing your own food. And what I mean by that is learning how to can your own food. So you can water bath can, you could pressure cook your own food if you wanted to, but just because I get my food from a garden and water bath can it and preserve it doesn't mean you have to do it like that. You can totally take food from the store and water bath can it. I would just try and get it in its purest form without any additives to it and try and get organic crops. So that is something that you can do. If you are canning beans, it's possible to water bath can them. I've gotten questions about this often, and I don't talk about it because it's a rebel canning method that I use. I grew up in Amish country, rural Pennsylvania, and I trust what they did. I trust what my ancestors did. So I'm comfortable with water bath canning beans. It just takes a long time. But if you want to save some money and save some electricity, definitely invest in a pressure cooker. You could even get an electric one where you just push a button and it does it on its own. So I think that's where we're going, in that direction eventually, once we get some funds to purchase one. And I believe Presto is the brand. They make a great one. So that is my solution. That is my way around the food shortage. If there is an issue with aluminum, I suggest learning how to preserve your own food by water bath canning or pressure canning. Another thing you could do is take some of those vegetables and dehydrate them, or you could look on a website that already has them dehydrated for you. I buy a lot of dry beans, so that is not an issue either. But what I want you to keep in mind here is just try and find that food that is the shortage in a different form and then store it indefinitely. Essentially try and store it with a long shelf life. So that is how I come up with these solutions. It's relatively easy for me. So if you're ever stuck on a food that you see at a shortage in the store, or maybe you read about it, let's brainstorm. Let's talk about it before you completely give up, because I've had that mentality before. What am I going to do? And I believe there's solutions to every barrier that life or the government is giving us. So I really would like it if we would have a conversation about what you're worried about, because I've been on that side before and I get the uncertainty is a little daunting, but I believe truly in my heart that there's a way around it. Next on the list is going to be fruit, and I've seen it on two different sides. I've seen citrus fruit as a shortage and an inflated price just because of bad weather down in Florida, and that's where we're getting majority of our citrus. And then I've seen fruit from California as well as other crops just not having a good yield last year and this year, and probably the upcoming years, just because of terrible weather and other things, again, that we won't mention on here. There's just been some, not conspiracies, but some talk about government interactions with landowners and unwanted chemicals on their crops. It could be coming from the water, it could be coming from the sky, it could be coming from the soil itself, but it is something to think about. So when I'm thinking about a fruit shortage, I think of the fruits that we eat the most and how to make it into a shelf-stable food, like I said in the last point. But if I'm thinking of strawberries, for instance, that's not going to affect us terribly. We love strawberries, but if we can't get fresh strawberries, hey, maybe it's time to make a 12-pack of strawberry jam or something like that, just so we have that flavor. Or you could dehydrate some strawberries just so you have them for a smoothie along down the road. But it was predicted that there was going to be a strawberry shortage. I have not seen that personally. If anything, I've seen my organic strawberries go on sale quite a bit this year, and I have taken notes for the past 3 years about sales and prices and things that we typically buy. And strawberries last year were at a shortage. So I don't know. I don't really know why that was predicted. Perhaps it was for a certain area, but here in Northeast Colorado, we did not have a strawberry shortage. But that doesn't mean I'm not thinking about other fruits. So when I'm thinking of citrus, I'm thinking of oranges and lemons. We eat them almost every single day. So I am trying my best to figure out a way to juice them myself and then freeze them. I've seen people do their own powdered juices. I have not gone down that road. I believe it would be more than dehydrating that fruit. I really think that you would have to use a harvest right or something like that. That's just one brand that comes to mind, but you essentially would have to freeze dry that fruit and then grind it down into a powder. I don't know how that works with oranges. If you were to freeze dry your oranges, grind it into a powder and mix it with water, if you can make orange juice, I'm not sure. I'm really not well versed in that, but that's where my mind goes when I think about, hey, maybe we can't have orange juice, or hey, maybe we can't have lemon juice. But lemon juice, I will say, is pretty shelf stable. I use a lot of lemon juice when I'm canning, and when I find it on sale, I buy it up. I get the Lakeside Canyon, I believe is the brand, in its organic form. And last week at Kroger, it was $2.99. So that's something to keep in mind. Maybe stock up when it is $2.99, because typically it's going to be $6.99. And when it comes to canning, I do like to try and do everything organic, because pesticides in canned food is another part of the problem that I don't really want in my family's food. It's something that you would have to research on your own. It's really whatever you're comfortable with mentally and budget-wise feeding to your family. So fruit, citrus, that's a big one. I've been trying to stockpile whenever things are on sale. I'd say that's probably last on my list when it comes to a lot of these things that I'm talking about that might be in shortage or be an inflated price. All right, I have 2 more categories to talk about. You're probably sick of this one, but water. Water is a big one. I haven't seen it on a food shortage list or an inflated price, but judging by some things that are happening in our country with water contamination that has been done on purpose, in my opinion, I really think it's time to start stocking up water, start learning ways to filter water from those chemicals, figuring out ways to grab big water jugs and fill them up at your nearest spring. I will leave the website linked in my description box where I find all of my spring water. It's not available to all states, but here in Colorado, it's easy to find. We can just head on up to the mountains unless there's a state of emergency and people are up there taken all the water. Although I don't see that happening because not a lot of people are aware of it, I do want to let everybody know about that website. So I will leave that in the description box down below. And then we talk about it all the time. We are kind of just on our way out of Colorado eventually. So I'm not taking large amounts of water and storing it. I would like to do that on our forever property. But if you're doing that, that's awesome. We talk about collecting rainwater. It's technically illegal in Colorado, so I'm not doing that, and it doesn't rain enough to collect. So that's another thing. I've heard people on the channel talk about their well water. They're never going to run out of water. What if your well dries up? It's possible. It's something to think about. So when we are looking for our property, when we move back to PA, we're definitely looking for something that can be off the grid. So we're looking for a body of water to live next to. And that's a little tricky to find in the budget. So wish us luck on that one. But water, can't say enough about it. Stock that first. That's the number one on my list. And then have the food follow. And then last on the list, I have to bring it up because I get messages about it every day. It's going to be a formula shortage. It's still happening. I think a lot of people are concerned for myself and my family. This will be my third baby, my third breastfed baby, and I plan to do that. Obviously, I know that every baby's different, every body is different, and in my opinion, fed is best. Whatever you can do to get your baby fed is the most important thing, but I do have a plan to breastfeed, and if I can't, then I have a plan to get breast milk. There are local groups that you can find because you can't technically advertise that you want to buy breast milk. It's a strange topic. I wasn't sure if I was going to bring it up in the video. It's not uncomfortable, but it's not my typical talk on this channel. So yes, I understand the concern. There are plenty of brands out there for formula that are great. We just prefer breast milk. So I have a gal that I trust, and she has a great stash readily available if I need it. So I appreciate the concern. And if there's any mothers out there that aren't planning on breastfeeding, definitely check out your local salvage stores. I've seen a lot of formula that's not expired yet, but it's getting there. I would not really feed my baby expired formula. We talk about expiration dates a lot on the channel, and that's one that I wouldn't mess with. I would talk to your doctors, your lactation consultants. I've even seen food pantries being helpful when it comes to formula shortages. But I will say, don't believe every single thing you read in the media. There's really no one that I can trust, and I understand that I am like a small portion of the media, but my impact is not as great as some of these larger media stations. So when you see that babies are starving and all of those, like big shock headlines, I would take it with a grain of salt. Of course, there is a shortage and it's scary, but there are still ways to get formula out there. If you can't find anything, please let me know. I will try my best to help you in your area. And even if it's food for yourself or your family, definitely let me know, or dial your local 211. There are resources out there. There's formula for your baby out there. I promise you that. Jump on Facebook. If you don't have a Facebook account, create one just for the formula. I promise there's somebody out there that will help you. You just have to reach out. There are resources for you. And that is it for my list this week. These are important to me. I hope they're important to you. I hope this was helpful. Again, baby is coming soon, so if I disappear for a little bit, you know why. I'm probably working hard to have that baby, but I will keep you in the loop. I will let you know how everything goes. If you're more curious about our lifestyle and what we do here in Colorado with my family, we do have another channel, and that's more motherhood and lifestyle. So I invite you to head on over there and subscribe if you're interested. Again, if you have anything that you're stocking up on this week that you think might be helpful, definitely drop that down in the comment box. We would love to hear from you. As always, stay adventurous, stay creative, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye, y'all.